So hello and thank you for joining us for preparing for Emergency Communications Center deployments. I am Bob Murphy with the DataMark team, and I'll be moderating today's presentation. Before we begin, I'd like to let everyone know that we are recording this webinar and all attendees are muted for the quality assurance purposes. If you have a question, please feel free to use the Q&A section of this platform and we will answer them at the end of the presentation or periodically throughout the presentation if time allows. I'd like to introduce Natalia Dorian as the presenter of this webinar. And Natalia began her career with the Miami-Dade Fire Rescue Department as a fire dispatcher in 1973, quickly moving to a rank of supervisor in 1980. In 1986, she was promoted to the Fire Communication Officer, managing the operations, training, and EMD quality assurance program for Miami-Dade Police Department of the Communications Center. In 2012, Natalia retired after 36 years of dedicated service to the 911 industry. And since 2012, Natalia has been an adjunct instructor with the APCO Institute. Natalia has provided training to 911 emergency communication specialists, police officers, firefighters, and emergency responding personnel across the country from Baja California to Mexico. Natalia is the state coordinator for the Florida APCO Telecommunicator Emergency Response Task Force, and works with police fire agencies in Florida in deployments of emergency communication specialists who were trained to deploy to assist 911 centers during catastrophic events such as hurricanes, to include Hurricane Irma in 2017 and the devastating Hurricane Michael, which struck the panhandle of Florida in 2018. In 1989, Natalia joined the Critical Incident Stress Management team, working with multiple jurisdictions in the greater Miami area, providing peer support to her own. Today, she continues the great work with the Miami-Dade Fire Rescue in her Critical Incident Stress Management and Chaplaincy program and serves as the Regional CISM Coordinator from Miami. Natalia is a proud graduate of the APCO Certified Public Safety Executive Program and has proven to be a 911 leader in the industry and continues to make a difference today. Natalia is a proud mother of 2 Marine veterans and a grandmother of 6, enjoys traveling, training, and meeting her brother and sisters in public safety. Without further ado, it is my distinct pleasure to turn it over to Natalia Dorian.
Thank you, Robert. I appreciate that. We are in very special times right now, and when you asked if I would present on the deployments, I thought what a great opportunity for me to provide information to all of us here in the United States about the role that our dispatchers play not only on a daily basis, but during crisis. Well, I have to admit that this is one crisis that our TERT program will have to stand still and stay at home, only because of the contagious virus that it is, and how we're not able to provide the type of program that we have for our brothers and sisters in other impacted areas. So when I thought about that, I said, well, what can I do? Well, this year for us, June, coming in June 1st is our hurricane season begins till November the 30th. And I think it's going to be different for us this year, at least at the beginning. I'm hoping that we won't have that many hurricanes. It is predicted that we're going to have approximately 14 to 18 tropical storms, 7 to 9 hurricanes, and 2 to 4 major hurricanes. Hopefully that prediction doesn't come true for us or anyone else. So in 2017, here comes Hurricane Irma, and it has been close to over 10 years since in the state of Florida we did any active physical training. We have followed the NJTI recommendations of ICS 144 and 1200 for team leaders. And after Hurricane Irma hit in 2017, we sent dispatchers out to help out in Collier County Sheriff's Office in the west coast of Florida, and in Monroe County Sheriff's Office in Key Largo. I quickly realized that the lack of physical training was not there for our dispatchers, and I knew that in our state of Florida, it was something that had to be done. So we came up with a training. It's called Emergency Communication Center Deployments. And what it is is we do an overview of our IS 144 and 1200 that everyone has to go through and certified in. And then we do an overview of lessons learned, and we break down the members into groups, and we do scenarios with them of what would they do when they get there. So as you can see on our screen, in Hurricane Irma in 2017, during the Collier County Sheriff's Office, when Hurricane Irma hit, we had 36 dispatchers that responded. 24 of them came from 8 PSAPs here in Florida. Now, 2 days later, after Collier County called for people, Monroe County calls and asks me for people to respond there too. Now, Monroe County was the first one that got hit by Hurricane Irma in the Keys. They just didn't have any type of communications to get to us until 2 days after Collier County did. I quickly realized the geographical differences between both. And what I tried to do was keep all of my local dispatchers to respond to the Keys, because I knew that unless you know the Keys very well, it's very treacherous sometimes to get there, especially at night. And I knew what was happening because I went there myself and I saw the devastation. So what I did was I went through the EMAC, and I actually had 6 Tennessee TERT members and 6 from Georgia that came to help out in Collier County. So once Collier County was taken care of, I knew that Monroe was to be taken care of by all of our local dispatchers. The other disadvantage that I had was the whole state of Florida during Hurricane Irma was on a Alpha Bravo hurricane activation for most of our PSAPs. So a lot of them were already working at their own communication center, waiting for Hurricane Irma to hit them, because it was a slow hurricane that was coming up the state. We completed this mission of Hurricane Irma back in September the 13th, and it lasted till the 29th. Next. Next, Robert. Now in 2018, we had Hurricane Michael. Hurricane Michael was a hurricane that devastated the Panhandle area. And in this one, Bay County was one of the largest comm centers that we had up in the Panhandle area. We had 38 TERT members that responded there from 12 different agencies. Then we had the smaller counties that still worked up in the Panhandle area that needed help, and that was Calhoun, Jackson, and Lynn Haven. We had 20 of our Florida TERT members that responded there. We completed that mission on October the 21st for Calhoun, Jackson, and Lynn Haven. And Bay County was stayed on for another extra week, needing people there. Next. I have pictures here of what it looked like, because sometimes I see that there are some cities and some agencies, some states that don't realize the impact of what not only a hurricane, but a tornado. Look what happened just this past week. Floods, fires, that can happen in their state. That a TERT team for me is something that allows dispatchers to use the gift that they have every day that they do in their own job to go help someone that needs our help. You see the Florida TERT members, our pictures there. What you're seeing is pictures of our actual dispatchers deployed during Hurricane Michael. Pictures of them responding, them with the local dispatchers, bringing in bags, helping people out. It was an amazing, just to watch and hear what they had to say about the locals and taking care of them. Next. In the EMAC request, I also wanted to have pictures so that people understand that we had other states that really did a good job in coming over and helping us out. There you have your Tennessee TERT team in the Collier County Sheriff's Office. That was just the Alpha group. The Bravo group was sleeping at that time. And then you had the Georgia team that were there with us, also helping us out. And if you wonder, how can that happen? How can they work in a different agency, especially across the state? Well, I can tell you that by experience, that all it took was for them for about between 20 minutes. And from what I hear from the director there at the Collier County, advising that in less than 2 hours, all of them that you see here were all working with 911 call taking positions and doing a great job. Next. In the state of Florida, we work closely with emergency management in ESF 49, which is fire and rescue. We also work with FDLE and ESF 16, and sometimes with ESF 2, only because they have the main communications. For us, communications is more of the infrastructure. But last year, we took our map and we broke it down from the State Emergency Response Task Force that we have and teams, and we broke our regions down. So we came up with the Panhandle region, Region 1. There I have two regional coordinators that work there. Northwest region, we have also 2. Northeast region, Region 3. Central, and then Central West, and then we have Southwest and the West Coast of Florida, and in the Southeast region. In each region, we have 2 regional coordinators that are my eyes and ears for the state. Every hurricane season in May, we get together, we have conferences, we have emails that go back and forth, and we talk about what have they done for their regions. So, for example, in the central region, we have 2. We have one in Pasco County, and in Orange County Sheriff's Office, 2 regional coordinators that their responsibility is in May to educate, provide information, teach, train dispatchers in their area that can be ready to deploy out to anyone else in the state of Florida. Next. We also have a picture of our state emergency management. Sometimes I find dispatchers, I would like to think that they're all trained, and they do actually go over their ESF, emergency support functions of the state. So we have a picture here of what each one provides in the emergency support function role. We work very close with ESF 2. Our work is done through ESF 49, which is fire and rescue, and 16, which is FDLE law enforcement. ESF 49 has been working with me for a very long time. I think we go back to the slide that showed the history of what we've done here in Florida and the relationship that we have here with the emergency management. Next. Now, one of the things that I did with this training, with the deployment training, ECC training, was to go over IS 144 and the 1200. One of the things that I realized that some of us are very good at doing online work and understanding what it is, but then there are some of us that need hands-on and that type of training. So I'll go over, and what you see here is me going over the pre-deployment planning that is already in the IS 144, coordinating with the state coordinators. Your team member identification. Are you certified? Are you certified to train? Do you have, we ask for fit for duty, that you have certain non-medical issues that may burden a team when you're responding. We have team member communications, recommendation of interpersonal skill classes, stress management classes. We talk about the planning, departure planning. During Hurricane Michael, one agency would have a car that could fit a 15-passenger van, and all they did was pick up other dispatchers on their way to the Panhandle from their own region. Next. Team building. This one was very important. It's more for your team leaders. We have to communicate. So imagine you responding to an agency with 6 dispatchers that are with you, and you only know one of them. The rest come from other agencies. That team leader is responsible for communicating and building a rapport with the people that she's going to be responsible for the time of deployment. For us here in Florida, we deploy for 5 days. So it's 1 day of travel, 5 days in the comm center, and 1 day of travel back. And I always ask each agency to please provide them with some downtime for either 1 to 2 days of being off so they can acclimate back again into their own centers. Travel to deployment area. This is where my regional coordinators come in. It's very important for us to have intel of what is going on around where the impacted area is at. Can we get in there? Is there water? Is there a car that can bring us in? A helicopter that can bring us in? So those are the kind of things that we work with in the deployment area. Preliminary work plan development. We are in constant contact with your host, people that ask us to be out there and help them out. In constant contact with what type of work do they need? Where do they need the dispatchers? What kind of shifts are you working? What hours? Where are they going to sleep? Is there food? So all these information that we need in order to prepare our teams to respond. Not everybody has to bring a lot of stuff. Most of the time, last year with Hurricane Michael, FEMA was wonderful in providing food and providing certain things that we didn't have to bring. Headsets most of the time are not one of the things that we bring with us. Just what you need for those 5 days that you're there and personal things that you may look for in your downtime. Finally, we have our team leaders when we call final team review. That means that our team leaders responsible that prior to them responding to an impacted area, that they speak to the dispatchers that are responding with them and do a review of what they have. Do you have everything in your bag? Do you understand what you're getting yourself involved in? All these questions that a team leader has to ask in order to make sure that the team is ready and willing to help out in the PSAP centers. Next. During deployment, information exchange with receiving agency is on a daily basis. When we have deployed, I am on the phone almost till 4 o'clock in the morning, sometimes to 11 o'clock at night. And what is happening is as things change, we need to provide that information to the agencies where the dispatchers came from, to the ones that are responding on their way there. So different things happen where we have to keep exchanging information. What is it that they need, the hours that may be changed, or a place that they may need to go to. Team briefings for me are very, very important. Team leaders responsible for team briefings, where they either go there all together or a team leader shows up 2 hours after her team has already arrived and she needs to establish parameters and what is it that they want to do with the help of their PSAP host. We also have team leader responsibilities that we review. Okay. What is their job? One of the biggest things that we have is your IS-214 logs that they have to fill out. Those are the caveat for us for our after action reports, and we make sure that things are written down and documented for future deployments. The logistical and operational needs, how are you going to get there? If we do have a member that is sick and needs to go, what happens? We actually had to have one agency pick up one of their own dispatchers from an agency that we were working at and take them home. So we talk about those things. We talk about team briefings. Now the team briefings that you see in the bottom here is more about your well-being. How are you? Because even though the stress is different for our local dispatchers that have been impacted in any type of crisis, also our team members get stressed out, being somewhere that's different, sleeping in cots, not eating the kind of food that they have, missing their families for the 5 days and not knowing what's going on. Departure planning, that's another one that's logistically, we have to figure out when they leave after 5 days, the next team that's coming in needs to be trained by them. So we try to coordinate. Doesn't work all the time the same way. Depends on what time the team gets there. We have an alpha team, perhaps that will train with the alpha team that's leading, and they will train on what it is that they have to do. Bells and whistles are out the door. Normally we stick to just your 911 call taking. And some of us have actually sat down and actually dispatched for that neighboring agency. Next. Post-deployment departure is also very important here. on post-deployment departure, we have replacement briefings. And we talk about what's going to happen when you go home. We talk about all these things that you may experience. I know that there's a lot of friendship that is developed, and throughout the years, we have kept them. We reviewed the logistics of how things were in one agency. During Hurricane Irma, we didn't have a place to sleep. So we had to figure out how we were going to handle that. In Hurricane Michael, another PSAP didn't have a place for our dispatchers to sleep. We had another state that came in and gave us 2 command buses and for our dispatchers to sleep in, so we were grateful for. Next. On post deployments, we have demobilization requirements that deals with the emergency management, some of the things that we did, the administrative paperwork, the 214 logs, the after action reports that I ask of all the team leaders to provide to me. I in turn work with emergency management at the state level, and we go over, we give them information about how things work, what didn't work, what we need to do next. So this is very important for us to make sure that we have these type of information. RES of 49 also have the reimbursement or workbook. We're very lucky to have someone from the Chief Financial Office that took us under his wing and helped every agency that sent dispatchers out to make sure that the reimbursement paperwork was handled and taken care of, so every agency could get reimbursed after the deployments. Next. Now I want to talk a little bit about the signs and symptoms. As you all know, I still work with as a peer counselor, and we have had our own anxiousness that has taken place throughout COVID-19. But in looking at some of the deployments we have had, not only do we ask our teams to look for these signs and symptoms in the local dispatchers that they're working with, but also for the team leader to look at the signs and the symptoms of their own teams responding. We have had moments where we've had to send dispatchers home. It was just too much for them to handle, and they realized that they were better playing a role of being at home and filling in the seats of their coworkers that were responding to an impacted area. It's different. I don't know how I can put into words. I'm sure some of you that have deployed with me that are here may be able to provide that information. But look, we actually put this on our website for our team leaders to be responsible. This is another recommendation that I have always said, besides an interpersonal skill class in teaching our dispatchers about communicating with other agencies, but they also have a stress management class, so that they're able to understand where they're coming from in order to provide the best service that they can to their brothers and sisters that are needing them. Next. Self-care. You know how we are. We are emergency responders, and we're always there for everyone else, and sometimes we forget that if we don't take care of ourselves, there's no way that we can take care of others. I have seen it in my career. We were so busy taking care of others that we didn't realize. So some of the things that we also put down, we talked to them about, is self-care, hypervigilance. Some of them come back and all they do is either think about what they went through, they think about the call that they probably have never heard before. And I know that we work in a center where most of us have heard many, many things. But sometimes I'm talking about things that are prevalent to a type of a crisis that we don't see in a lifetime sometimes. Okay? Being restless. You know, you come from a center where everybody is hopping and walking and talking and just working hard, and you go back to your own agency and it's nice and it's calm, and you just feel restless, like something is missing. Intrusive imagery, extreme changes in your normal ways. One dispatcher, I remember, said that it was very difficult for her when she returned back to her own agency after being deployed during one of our hurricanes in 2004, where she took care of that sister agency, handling calls that were just amazing and incredible. And to go back to her agency and find out that one of her own co-workers was very upset because she broke her nail, and she said she lost it. Okay? And it's just that type of information that you get back from dispatchers, realizing where they come from, where they have to acclimate themselves back to the norm of what they have in their own agencies. Fear of experiencing the incident again. Here in Florida, I think we all go through that. Every time it's hurricane season for me, and I see this dark cloud at the corner where there's this tree, all I can think about is the hurricane that hit me, and where I lost trees and I lost electricity for a whole week while still doing this work. Looking to blame something or someone for the event, and of course we need to look out for your partner as well. So it's very important that we take care of ourselves if you want to work in this type of work of going out and deploying and taking care of others. Next. Lessons learned on every deployment. We did have some challenges, we did have some success, and how can we improve? We all learn, no more than we're learning right now with COVID-19. You guys are doing an amazing job in your centers. There's part of me that wishes I was in the middle of all that. So I'm doing my best what I can from home. But it's one for the books. We'll be training on this many years to come to our future dispatchers, what we're gonna do and how we're gonna take care of things through a pandemic. But during a hurricane, it's the same thing. We have to find out how can we improve our teams? How can we do better jobs at deployments? Each deployment has been different for us. Next. So here are some of the lessons that we have learned. During Hurricane Irma, we deployed was the first since the storms of 04. In the storms of 04, we had 4 storms that hit us. Charlie, Francis, Ivan, and Jean. There, we deployed over 165 dispatchers throughout the state of Florida. Unprecedented as well, and we did a great job. But here comes Hurricane Irma 10 years later, and some of us didn't. It's not that we didn't realize. What we realized that we had a whole new group of dispatchers that were now working in comm centers. So Florida didn't have a hurricane we had hurricanes, but none where we were deployed. What happened was that the dispatchers didn't understand. They were young when the other hurricanes hit them, and they didn't understand the impact that they have when they go into somebody else's house to work a dispatch. It's not the same as working in their own place. That's why training is so important, and why after Hurricane Irma, I took it upon myself to go around the state of Florida, doing train the trainer, and hoping that dispatch centers in May, when we all here are supposed to be training for hurricane season, I would like to see the same concept happen in the United States with all our dispatchers, so they get trained to understand what is it that we can do for someone else. Okay? We already have proven over and over again how good we are every day at what we do. Okay? But sometimes our brothers and sisters in an impacted area get hurt, and who is going to be there for them if not us? It's just us. Hurricane Michael devastated most of the Panhandle area, especially in Mexico Beach in 2018. Still to today, they're still working with minimal things there, but they have learned a lot, and they have become a great advocate of FL-TERT, and I'm very happy for that. We recognize the need to prepare our PSAPs by providing a refresher course. So that's the reason why after Hurricane Irma, I decided that it was time for us to do a 8-hour class of on-the-job type of training, doing scenarios with people and see what was going on, and actually show them, not just read things online, but actually be there so they could understand what it is that we had to do. So that has been very successful for us. Unfortunately, I had 2 training coming up, April 27th and in May. Both have been canceled now until we get over this crisis that we're in now. Another thing that I noticed that we had a problem with was our administrators were also younger, and new in those 10 years. Some of them had no idea about who we were, and God knows I have done training, and you'll see me on my FL-TERT Facebook page talking about this over and over again. So that was another thing that I asked my regional coordinators to do, asked them to go out to their administrators, to their own regional emergency management, and talk to them about FL-TERT, educate them about who we are, what we do, and why we do it. Our FL-TERT database, we have a database which is strong. We have about 500 strong in our database. But I have to tell you that in some of them, our agencies were not communicating to my training, to my database coordinator, when someone would leave, or when someone retired, or when somebody died. So sometimes we were doing extra work and looking for people that no longer were there. That is something that we need to revise, and we have to work with every May that has to be revised in your own agencies. Who are the people that are willing to do this kind of work? Who's willing to go sleep in a hard cot and eat MREs and put up with local dispatchers that may be stressed out, that may not be kind to you? Not because they don't want to, they just don't know how sometimes. That's how they deal with their stress. Okay? We talk about how we must take responsibility to keep us updated on who is still available and who is no longer with us. Because if we did extra work, regional coordinators in the Orange County and the Orlando area, another young lady that worked with me since the beginning of this, Debbie Gelbrecht, was another one that worked with me. And it was difficult for us. And we were on the phone constantly every day trying to find the right people. And some agencies then had no idea who we were. So there's a lot of work that has to be done. Next. So let's look at the challenges that I met during Hurricane Irma. This is a picture that was taken of the Keys. Okay? So in Hurricane Irma, the challenge for us was that the state of Florida, almost all of their Florida PSAPs were in hurricane activation mode. Okay? I personally lost power for 1 week, but I come from a department that required us to have landlines. Till this day, I have a landline in my house, because when all the electricity went down, I was able to call all of my regional coordinators on my own landline and still continue to have communications with them and talk to them. This hurricane was slow, so it hit the Keys first, came to Miami, did this little number here in my house, and then went to the West Coast instead of going up the state of Florida. So it was a slow hurricane that started to hit the other agencies as it went up north. Okay. Challenges we met were that the Collier County Sheriff's Office requested 20 of our dispatchers to respond to the West Coast. I have to tell you guys that the first thing I thought was, where am I going to get 20 dispatchers who are now activated in their own agencies? But we found them. Okay? We found them. And we were able to send not 20, we were only able to send 19 out of the 20, but we were able to do that. Because remember, as the hurricane went up north and hit the West Coast, now the southeast part of Miami was clear. So in that first case, we had some dispatchers that were already off of Bravo and were able to respond. 2 days later, when Monroe County called us, they asked for 12. This was logistically challenging for me. There's only one way into the Keys. Many of you have been here. And if you have been here, imagine the roads, the one road, it's a one-lane road on your way to the Keys, and all I saw was sand that came all the way up to where the wheels of my car were. And then you saw pictures like this of your cars. I actually saw trailer parks overturned, trees upside down. I mean, it was horrible. So if you didn't know the Keys very well, I couldn't imagine what it must be like to go there. I was concerned as a state coordinator, and I am concerned about my dispatchers going out. And I wanted to make sure. Most of us that went to the Keys during Hurricane Irma only traveled during the daytime. I did not allow them to travel at night because there's no lights. There were no lights, there was nothing out there. And the water is so almost at the same level as your street that you can easily just have your car careen right into the water. So that one to me was very, very important that our dispatchers went home safe. Okay. And this is the reason why I kept all my local dispatchers working in the Keys and why Tennessee and Georgia came to help me out on the west coast of Florida. Next. Hurricane Michael. Hurricane Michael, the challenge that we met, the first call that we received came from emergency services. It took me aback because I've been working with ESF 49 and they requested a team to respond. Obviously, I fulfilled that team, but I was real quick to ask for the people that I work with so closely at the state level, because they understand who we are and they understand the role that we play with their police and their fire personnel. Okay? Challenges, we had agencies that were overwhelmed. There were agencies that were not aware of what FL-TERT was. Okay? Training had not taken place. Other agencies used other resources other than FL-TERT, which is okay. There's no problem with that. But I had to be careful because they would be asking me for dispatchers when they already had other dispatchers that were there from other states, not from other states, from other agencies that were working with them, but not under the FL-TERT program. Okay? We realized that more training on deployment was necessary. A lot of our dispatchers, unless you're trained on this, you don't understand that going to somebody else's home, other agency, is not about doing the same thing that you do at yours every day. Okay? So we talked about that. State EOC worked very well with us. Okay? Local dispatchers during Hurricane Michael, a lot of them lost their homes, no place to go. Okay? There were no available accommodations for us, no hotels that were open, no churches, nothing. Thank God that we had two trailers that came down from, two buses that came down from, I think it was here, Alabama, that gave us two trailers in order for our dispatchers to sleep in. Food, it was very difficult for us during Hurricane Michael in the Panhandle. Operation Barbecue Relief with the help of a dispatcher from the Tallahassee area was a godsend for many of them, where they provided food for us. And of course, as we both all know, dealing with local politics, you have to tread lightly and make sure that you're doing the job and doing the best you can for them. Okay? Closing out the mission is something else that was interesting. It always happens in every deployment. Now, I have deployed since 1992 to many deployments here in the state of Florida. I think Robert had the first slide. We'll bring that up later so you can see the history behind us. But closing out the mission sometimes is one of the most difficult things that we have to do, and that is weaning our awesome dispatchers away from the PSAP that required us. They realized, oh my God, they're picking this up. They're actually doing the work that we do here. They're doing it. Of course we are. We're dispatchers. Why shouldn't we? Okay? Why shouldn't we? So sometimes it's hard to let them go. Well, can they stay here another week, Natalie? No, they have to go back. They have to go back to their own agency, so I can't get them next year if you keep doing this to me. So those are the kind of things, but it's a good type of closing out the mission. Preparing the report for state for reimbursement, it could be tedious. Let's put it that way, it's tedious. But at the end of the day, with the help that we have from the state and the financial officer that has become what I call him my financial angel when it comes to deployments, he's still very much involved with us, and he has helped many agencies prepare their reports. One of the things that I do ask agencies is, look, if your police officers are responding and being deployed and firefighters, all they have to do is just add dispatchers to that list. It's very simple. Add dispatchers to that list. We are, after all, first responders. Next. There's one team, there's one group that we work very closely with, and that is your IT. And they actually wrote to me that in Hurricane Michael says, hey, Natalie, don't forget that if it wasn't for us, you guys couldn't talk on those radios. And I agreed. I agreed that they were also just as indispensable as our dispatchers. And this is a picture that you see is of our IT people and the technology of putting things together and getting those towers up so that we're able to communicate with our firefighters and police officers and with the community. So I love them all. Next. Here are some pictures. I knew that when I did this training, if I know how we are, if we don't see pictures of us actually working, it's only what Natalie is saying. No, it's not what I'm saying. That's why I love pictures. Everybody that knows Natalie knows when you get deployed here in Florida, oh, you better take pictures because she's going to ask you for pictures. And they're right. I'll hound you down until you give me pictures of your team. Why? Because we have to tell a story. See, we have to tell a story to future dispatchers so they can see the kind of work that you do. We all know that we work in an environment where not many see us. So you have to go out there and I need to see you. Others need to see you. They need to see the kind of work that you do, how viable, how important you are. If you're that good in your own agency on a daily basis, look at what's happening now. I mean, I just heard Louisiana the other day talking about they received over 6,000 calls in one day. And I wonder, how are they doing it? How are the dispatchers, how are they? Like one said, I'm brain dead, Natalie, brain dead. So we gotta take care of our dispatchers and make sure they're okay. And there's a lot that we're gonna learn from COVID-19 after all this is over. I hope you're taking notes. I hope you're taking pictures at your comm centers, taking pictures of your dispatchers. We have a story to tell the world. There's your barbecue relief. Art was awesome from Tallahassee. That's one of our dispatchers. Very happy to have gotten the food that we provided for them because they didn't have anything at all in that area where she was at. Next. There's Jackson County, another one in the Panhandle area. You see the local dispatchers saying your locals. There's, well, right now I can't tell, but you have your locals and your TERT dispatchers working side by side with them. Okay. And there's a group right there on the right-hand side. Dispatchers also coming in to help out at Jackson County Sheriff's Department. Next. In Pasco County, they were great. Pasco County was one of my last agencies that I had gone to do some type of training, and boy, they sent a lot of good people there. It was awesome. Then we have Orange County Sheriff's Office and the Palm Beach County Fire Rescue all together working. Awesome people. Also did great work. Next. And here we have mission accomplished. And no, it's not a mistake. I didn't put that question mark for there. A little history behind this one. This was at the Bay County Sheriff's Office. And this week, this is when the emergency manager said, okay, we're closing down. We've been doing this for a while now, and most of us are ready to go back. And so I asked this young man to put up a sign saying that mission accomplished, that he was the last one to leave. The problem was that when he left, I received a phone call from Bay County Sheriff's Office, and he says, Natalie, what happened? There's nobody else coming in? And we had to send another group for one whole week into Bay County. That's where we finally, we completely finished the deployments for Hurricane Michael. Next. So we thought he had finished it, but at the end of the day, Orange County Sheriff's Office and the Nassau County were the last group to go in and help out in Bay County in the Panhandle area. The young man that's photo in the back there, he was part of that team too. He just couldn't get up and be part of that group right there. Next. So it's a very small, I only had 1 hour. This training to me is important. I'll be more than happy to share with you what I have done, what we have done here in Florida. We have been very successful in all of our missions since 1992. I know that this type of program can work in any state for floods, hurricanes, fires, even to the point of helping another agency that they need to go to someone's funeral and they need somebody for 2 hours to go work for them. You won't get reimbursed for that. If the only reimbursement comes in after it's declared a disaster by the president. Other than that, we can still work together and help each other out. So you can always reach out to me. I'll be more than happy to help you out. The training that has to take place is in FEMA.gov for IS 144, which is a basic awareness training. And then you have for a team leader, someone that wants to lead a team, your 1200. However, I wholeheartedly recommend that you do some type of scenario type training with your centers if they're going to respond to someone else's PSAP in order to help them out in any type of crisis. This year, I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, our governor said today that it looks like mid-May that this is going to end for us here. We are at a state where I live in Miami, so it's the COVID here is about 4,077 have tested positive. We've had 56 that have died, and in Miami alone, we have 1,192. So it's real, it's here, and hopefully we won't get any hurricanes, but if they do, that'll be another class that we'll have to teach at. Robert, do we have any questions on our board?
We do not have any questions at this point. We do have about 10 minutes left, so by all means, if there are any questions regarding TERT or developing a response to such as the COVID-19 you'd like to bounce off of Natalia, please feel free to go ahead and drop those in the Q&A, and we'll take a look at all those.
Well, we have 10 minutes left, Robert, and maybe a lot of people don't know this, but I met Robert Murphy while he was here in Florida working, and he went to help me out in the Panhandle. You want to share a little bit of that, Robert?
Yeah, regarding that, yeah. So I had a distinct pleasure to serve with Natalie as part of the TERT initiative in Florida during Michael. You know, at that time I was working as the communications chief in Okaloosa County, and we were stood up and fully prepared for to brace the impact of Hurricane Michael as it came into the Panhandle. You know, fortunately or unfortunately, you know, Michael took an eastward turn and spared us. And just as we were starting to set down our stance, we received a call from the folks in Bay County requesting help. So, you know, we immediately deployed over as a kind of a quick response team with, I think we sent 4 folks initially until we can get some of the other teams in. And it was an incredible opportunity. It was an incredible opportunity to learn from Natalia and all the other teams. So we were thankful for that opportunity. And we had a few subsequent deployments to Calhoun County and some of the other areas there. We sent some team members for a few days. But, you know, the one thing I will say is coming from, you know, prior to working in Okaloosa, I worked in the Northeast, and we didn't have much involvement with a telecommunicator emergency response task force. But quickly got engaged with that when I came to Florida. And I can say that before I had left my time in Okaloosa, TERT was absolutely part of our disaster recovery plan. We engaged it. We had about 85% of our team members were certified, multiple team leaders to support. I'd highly encourage everybody getting involved in that. That being said, we do have a couple questions. I'll kind of run through those if we could. And the first question is, what advice, Natalia, can you give for getting a TERT team started in a state that does not currently have a team? And we talked about that earlier this afternoon. You know, again, I didn't experience that in Pennsylvania. So any advice you can provide as far as standing up a team where there's not an active team now or team process?
Well, the first thing that we need to have is dispatchers that are willing to do the work. and are willing to respond. And for us in Florida, it went from having them for 10 days in my own center during Hurricane Andrew, all the way to today we do 5 days. 5 days is more easy for the agencies to let one of their own dispatchers respond. And then you get another team to also share the wealth, as we call it, for 40 hours. So 5 days in. So that's one thing. First, see if you have a dispatchers that are willing to do this kind of work. Then you have to work with the emergency management. Emergency management is the key here. So you have to go speak to them. In each state, there is a state emergency response plan. And within those response, you have coordinators that work within there. So it could be someone from the police side or the fire side. And that's how it gets started. Another thing that I recommend is that you go to and get down and get the actual ANSI standard. We actually have a APCO-NENA ANSI standards, the standard for telecommunications emergency response task force deployments. And all those answers, all those questions that you have here are answered there. So download it and you can start working with that and get yourself a regional coordinator that's willing to work with you, that understands the state or is willing to understand the state, and pick people that can be their eyes and ears for them. How do I think that COVID-19 impact deployments for natural disaster? How do you think it will impact? Well, like I said, this year, right now, there has not been any TERT request. And I have to tell you that if there were, I would have to turn them down. I cannot have dispatchers go from a different agency. No, I don't think that they would respond to another agency to help out during COVID-19. So this is something that is it's interesting. I'm going to wait and see what happens. I hope nothing happens. I know that so far San Francisco, Detroit, St. Pete, Washington State has dispatchers that have tested positive. And I'm waiting to see how they handled it. What do they do? Do they quarantine the whole shift? To who do they bring in? Now, I know there's some of us, and we have talked about this, there's some of us that are willing, that are retired, that are willing to come and help out. But then again, it's going to have to be a volunteer basis, I assume. So I'm sure many are talking about this on what to do, but COVID-19 really has put a stop to our deployments. And I don't know what's going to happen this year with hurricane season 2020. Hopefully we won't get a hurricane. And if we do, let's hope it's after all this is over with and it's clean and we're able to help our brothers and sisters in their time of need.
Yeah, Natalia, there's another question just came in. I think you and I were talking about this earlier this afternoon, and it's a great question. Do you see TERT teams being able to assist agencies remotely in the future? And I'll let you take a stab at that, but that's absolutely a question we talked, a situation we talked about earlier is as NG911 continues to evolve, that's really going to be a capability that we're going to be able to leverage to help support those folks. I'd love to hear your take on that from the state TERT perspective.
Well, I have written down some notes before the presentation, and one of them was, with technology at the forefront, what creative ways can we do to help? And this is one of them. If we are to help them remotely, well, one of the first things that's very basic. I can help remotely, but give me a map so I can see where we're going and what to do. So are we going to be able to bring that up? Are we able to see certain things that we can work with? Maybe it can be done at a regional level where each one can work with each other. They know the geography of a region or a tri-state, for example. I don't know the answer. I haven't seen anything yet. Command buses, perhaps, that we can take, and we have worked remotely with them. A little different from IDT, but it's a remote bus that can actually respond and work with the local dispatcher from the remote, from that aspect. But this is something that I would love to see. How do we do that? I'm waiting for my IT people to come up with, and engineers to come up with things.
Yeah, it's certainly going to give us some, I think, some additional capability as we start to transition into this NG91 world. And we're coming pretty close to the end, but we do have one additional question, which I think you may be able to provide some insight, and that's, we have many centers that are currently split duties, such as law enforcement versus fire and EMS. And is there anything in place between those two agencies to assist each other should something happen to one of those agencies? Thinking mainly about the COVID-19 or similar situation versus rather a regional disaster. I think that's a great question.
Well, you know, I've heard many agencies are doing different things. As a matter of fact, this morning we were talking about that. I know of one agency that their backup agency is completely clear of any dispatchers, and they're keeping it that way in case one of their own gets tested, that they can move other dispatchers into the backup system. Other agencies have taken dispatchers and split them. Some have gone to the backup, others have been at the main PSAP, just to make sure. But then that could be a problem too. Another controversy with that is what if you have they get tested and they test positive both at the backup and the main? Then what? Well, then you have your command buses. Someone else this morning came up with what we can do is split them. We can have day shift work at the backup only. Once they leave, somebody goes and cleans and disinfects them every day for them to go back, keeping it clean. Night shift works at the main one, and once they leave, that gets cleaned up and it gets disinfected. I thought that was a great idea too. Rebecca, I'm hoping that I answered your question. If they're split in duties, law enforcement, fire, and EMS, well, I can tell you that when we deploy, we actually respond. For example, I come from a fire family, and I went out and helped out in the sheriff's office. If there's one thing that we have in common is phone calls. We know how to handle them. We know how to handle people. We know how to calm them down. We know what information we need. So it doesn't matter whether you're law enforcement, fire, or EMS, everyone knows how to do call taking. Most of us do anyway. And then you have, you're able to do that. All you really need on the emergency rule is what? Location, chief complaint, and a callback number. So at the sheriff's office, I had a call one time where two people were fighting at a gas station over gas. And I got the information that I needed. And they could hear me speaking, and they wanted to know what descriptions they had. So I gave them that to the police dispatcher and then handed it over to the local police dispatcher. So there's ways that we can do things. It's just the information that we need. It's the basic information. During your crisis, we have to remember that. We only need basic information. Sometimes the rules go out the window in order for us to do the job, and then go back to norm again when we can. Robert?
Absolutely. All right, so we're about 3 minutes over, and I wanted to take an opportunity and just first off thank Natalia for sharing her experiences with us. It's an incredible learning opportunity, and for the folks on the call, her contact information is up on the screen. By all means, feel free to reach out to her. She's extremely open to answering any questions, providing some guidance, and she's full of so much expertise and information. I'd encourage you all to reach out to her. If you have any questions regarding an existing TERT program, if you want some guidance of standing up a program, or just looking for some resources to even strengthen and build upon what you have now, she's an incredible resource, and she's so experienced. And it's such an honor to spend some time with her this afternoon. And to each of you attending, it's an absolute pleasure, and we're so proud to have each of you, and we're thankful for the opportunity to do a virtual conference in a time where traveling and gathering in crowds has unfortunately delayed some of our conferences and networking opportunities. Certainly, we have a week full of great speakers and great presenters. For anybody who's looking, please feel free to take a look at the calendar and invite your folks tomorrow as we talk about these disasters and leveraging different tools and resources. Our keynote presentation this morning by Mr. Francis Kelly of Esri will talk about the power of GIS in disasters. and certainly a 1-hour session with Ricardo Martinez from the I Am Not One movement is gonna spend some time talking with us tomorrow about the power of storytelling. And that's really if you haven't heard Ricardo speak, it's an incredible time. He can relate to each one of us as a responder. You know, again, throughout the day tomorrow, we're going to look at another case study of the Tubbs fires, large wildfires in California in 2017. And again, as we continue to work in these time of crises, I invite everybody to participate in tomorrow's Lunch and Learn session with Mr. Adam Tin from the Healthy Dispatcher. He's going to talk to us about how we can keep ourselves healthy and keep our families healthy as we work through these very difficult times. And then certainly, again, pointed directly at the COVID-19 and coronavirus issues we're working with right now at the 12 and 12:30 Pacific time. Mr. Anthony Puzo from Esri is going to take us through dashboards for the COVID-19 response. And wrapping up the day with really 2 GIS-centric conversations, one from Mr. Ken Wall from Geodata, specifically to the rural communities, speaking about building your GIS data to support a transition to NG911. And then we'll wrap that up with one of our own, Sarah Rollins, who's going to talk about GIS and public safety and really how we move GIS into the role of a public safety responder. But again, we're so thankful and honored to spend some time with you today. We thank you for spending time with us. We hope that the information provided was useful. And again, if you have any questions, you feel free to reach out to myself or Natalia, and we will get you any resources we can for you. Beyond that, incredibly thankful for the job that each of you do. We would not be able to do the things we do as a society had it not been for the men and women behind the headset. So our thoughts and appreciation to each of you during this time.
Robert, one more thing. We do have a FL-TERT Facebook page. If anybody wants to go there and check some of the things that we're doing. Another website that is good, I have to give some kudos to, is Texas. Texas has a great website. Louisiana does too. So you may want to check and see what those states have done for their TERT program. Thank you, everyone. Stay safe.
Thank you all. Have a great day.